Andrea, I know you had submitted a question. Did you want to get started with that? Are you
Might as
comfortable with
well.
throwing that out to the group?
I am so comfortable.
Great.
So I'm sitting down writing my first president's letter for our journal, and we are going through multiple transitions right now. So my first month as president, and we received notice of our resignation of our CED, who's been with us for 22 years. And we're just starting the process of interviews. And I don't know if we have the right audience here, but if any of you have been through the CED transition process recently, I wanted to know what worked, what didn't work, lessons learned in terms of how to make a new CED supported and successful. There you go. It's huge, but you may or may not have the experience. So love to hear it.
Steve, I see you came off mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, we went through this process last year. Jill, who's with us for 14 years, obviously we're bringing in somebody new. And I don't know, I know she gave a resignation, but did she give you like ample notice to transition somebody in? Is she going to work with him?
She's definitely working with us. She's doing everything possible, but she has a hard date. She gave us basically 6 weeks, which,
okay,
you know, we're probably going to have, my guess is we're not going to have somebody in place. Her last day is December 2nd, Friday, December 2nd. And realistically, I don't think we're going to have anybody start until after the first of the year. And right now we don't have any, we have 3 part-time, almost full-time staff employees, but we're completely virtual. So there's no office. So yeah, so we're interviewing. She's being part of the process. She is helping us do a lot in preparation. She is not leaving us high and dry other than the hard date.
So, I mean, the first thing we focus on our major events, our expo, our golf event, our annual major events, our holiday party, which is the end of the year, which was what we did is, so we had, I think Nicole joined us September 1st. So we had September, October, November, December as a transition, but Jill really didn't do anything. We set it a hard date as this is the day we want Nicole doing everything.
Got it.
Transition for 30 days and 45 days, but then pass the reins, give her the laptop, give her the cell phone. We want her doing there. And then the old CD was there as a support role rather than actually being the front person and the main contact. So having that transition period and then, you know, and having Jill as a supportive role, you know, she started, you know, she was retiring, you know, she was one of those that she's, you know, she moved to North Carolina, but we had a great event for her. So, but the holiday party was our biggest event coming to that, which we had Nicole helm from the start. You know, she did all new, what Nicole brought in is technology, right?
Yeah.
So you get fresh blood.
Exactly.
Started using more technology and we started trying some of those things, some of our mixers leading up to the holiday party. That transition period is so important. And the first thing I made sure is obviously your database of all your key contacts for all your main events, like you know who your signed person is for your golf event, your clubs and stuff like that, all the expos, all the people, all that information is so valuable to come over. But transition period to me was the most beneficial thing. There were some issues as far as butting heads a little bit because you had old ways and new ways, and we should do this and that. That's to be expected.
Yeah.
It'll happen. The fact that you have additional staff members to help with the transition is advantageous. We just had Jill. That was it.
Right.
But we didn't change any, like we have a PO box as our main address. We don't have an actual office. So we didn't change that yet. You know, we let that go for transition period, but the cell phone number is the same. So everybody knew the CED cell phone number, the CED email address was the same, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Making the announcements in the magazine and so forth. But transition period worked for us. You setting a hard date on when the new person, okay, you take it from here. And then Jill, even though she moved to North Carolina, she said, I'm always available if you need to bounce things off, if you need me to help you on the golf event. I can pay her part-time if she'll come down and do that type of thing. So you leave that door open in case there are some challenges. Absolutely. You know, I've seen a lot of new CDs come in and after a month or two, I don't like this and quit. You know,
we don't want that. And we don't want to lose any chapter staff that we do have because they don't feel supported or, you know, God forbid we have a bad hire, which we're trying to not do and not hire the first person. So yeah, taking care of everybody. But yeah, it is beneficial that we have the staff because they're already helping run the events and our website and the advertising. And the one thing that we thought about, but it'd be 2 transitions, would be, depending on how long it takes to find somebody, is looking for an interim CED. You know, but then we've got 2 transitions.
Then you got, then you have double
Yeah.
training, double the amount of work. And it's, if you're able to find that person, and Emily was great for us in sending out the job description when we sent the call for resumes out there, and we pre-screened a lot of them. And then we had a couple good candidates to choose from at the end of the day. So,
yeah.
And we went with the person we felt was best at the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve.
No, you're
Does
welcome.
anyone else have any advice for the Washington State chapter during this process? All right. Well, if you do think of anything
you.
or any tips or tricks, please feel free to either email them over to one of our chapter relations team and we'll forward it on, or Andrea, if you want to put an email address in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That way, if anyone thinks of anything or wants to have a conversation about other experiences, that way they can reach out to you as well. And good luck with that process.
We're
Can you
optimistic.
guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm driving and I was trying to put my information in, but I can't. This is Gina Roldan with CAI Greater Inland Empire in California. So we are going through it right now. We not only had our CED resign, but we also had the assistant leave. So we have a part-timer in the office, and that's it. And we're really going through it. And before Crystal left, she helped us out, and Emily has been helping as well. My recommendation would be get a task force going, and get a task force that is, you know, really good, and it's going to help you like weave through the applications and have the chapter's best interests at heart. And so just make sure that you get that task force together and really check the references and ask as many questions as possible concerning the chapter's daily in and outs and financials, especially.
Thank you, Gina. And feel free, I put my email in there, but I can also reach out to you. Maybe we can chat this whole year about this transition and just kind of support each other since we're going through it at the same time. I've got Emily and Crystal helping me as well. So obviously we're getting all the same information. We do have a task force. We're just about to schedule our first interviews. And, you know, like Steve said, I think the good news, we love Michelle, we love our CED, and she'll be the first to tell you that technology is not her strength. And so what she hopes for us is somebody to take us into that next level. And that's what we're hoping to. And so instead of transformation, we're looking at, instead of transition, we're looking at transformation is what the hope is. So, but yeah, I would love to stay in contact with you. And in addition, this is more information just for everybody else, but our current CED does all of our bookkeeping, and we're the 3rd largest chapter. So we have quite a bit of funds go in and out. Probably long overdue, but because of this, we are now outsourcing our bookkeeping to a nonprofit bookkeeper. And so we're going through that transition right now. So at least the accounting portion can be audited and held separately from the position. The position is still going to have to code and understand QuickBooks, but we're kind of jumping to that right away, knowing that financials were really important to us. So
that's great.
Yeah.
All right. I'll open it up. Does anyone on the line have any other specific questions? I know I've got a couple more that people have submitted and that I've got too, but I'll open it up if you guys have anything on the line. All right. So I know a lot of chapters are currently going through or have just finished their strategic planning for the 2023 year. And I just wanted to give an opportunity to all of you to kind of maybe call out one of your larger goals or a direction that the chapter is focusing on for 2023. Everybody just stay on mute. It's okay. No, go ahead.
I might as well throw it out there. I had great plans. We are about to jump into our strategic planning. We actually are using Lowell Applebaum, who was at National Convention this last year. And when I told him that we were losing our CED, he says, "Are you sure you still want to do this?" And I'm like, yes, because our chapter really needs the change and we've always kind of done a 1 year kind of more business plan versus long-term strategic plan. So my goal is, my understanding is that this first year is going to be all about the transition, but hopefully it will give structure for the next 3 to 5 years of where the chapter's headed. So we may not see the changes right away, but things that have been brought up, DEI is huge. Women's leadership has been brought up quite a bit. And then, I think this is a constant battle, but the homeowner education and elevating education of our professionals, our managers in the state, so we can elevate the level of professionalism in the state. To me, the linchpin is the managers. If we have great managers, they're going to educate the homeowners and let them know about CAI, and then you're going to bring in the business partners because they want to be there for the managers. And so, but yeah, those are the three kind of common themes for us in Washington State.
Rich, I saw you came off mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, what we're going to try and do, what I want to try and do next year is just concentrate a lot on the retention, the member retention, because we have a few, not a lot, but a few management companies that they automatically sign up their new clients into CAI. But then we're finding a lot of them, like probably 75% of them don't renew. So we're going to start reaching out to them just to see, and a couple times a year, say, how's it going? Hey, we haven't seen you at the last luncheon or whatever, and just to make it so we're not just asking for the money and then we drop off the face of the earth. So that's what we want to concentrate on this year. There's a couple other little things, but it's normal stuff.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Craig, go ahead.
Sure. Hey, everybody. We are actually in the middle of going through a executive director transition. So I don't necessarily have guidance to give yet on that because we're still going through it, but maybe after the fact, we'll have some insight. But as far as coming into this next year, we already have our new executive director hired, and we're going through the transition as they're working together, and our current or previous executive director is retiring. But one of the things we're focusing on for 2023 is we're kind of revitalizing the committees. I think we realized that, one of the blessings and curses of having somebody that's been in a position for a long time is the fact that they get very comfortable. And while our retiring executive director is awesome, it kind of got to the point where the committees were on autopilot, the office was on autopilot, and when it came to the events and it came to the things that happened in the chapter, they were just kind of, it was on autopilot. It's kind of the same things every year. And what I kind of saw is the individual committees that were responsible for events, like, for example, we do 2 golf outings a year, the golf outings. They already knew where it was going to be. They already knew what the food was going to be. They already knew how much it was going to cost. They already knew what the sponsorships were going to be. They already knew all of that. So the committee's responsibility basically consisted of, showing up and stuffing goodie bags for the golfers. So, in my manner of thinking, going into next year, I want the committees to have more, not only have more accountability, but have more ownership in what they're doing, and have them have the ability to have their own budget and make their own decisions within the framework of their committee, so that hopefully they have a little more, having more ownership of it. Hopefully we'll have a little more innovation and a little more excitement. Some of the committee members had kind of gotten bored with what they were doing because they never really had the chance to put their stamp on it, So we were set to have our committee retreat actually yesterday. our committee, our year-end committee kind of workshop for all the committee chairs, but it got canceled because of the, impending storm that came and left. So it'll be rescheduled to the end of the month, but basically getting everybody together and giving them a fresh perspective going into next year, and hopefully getting them excited about having more ownership in their committee and being able to drive some more of the decisions for the benefit of not only their committee, but for the chapter.
Greg, that's great. And that reminds me of just that a couple chapters do that. If you do that, if you get your committee chairs together, go ahead and just, raise your hand. But chapters that I have worked with specifically that do that tend to find their committees are more on board with their strategic direction when they have that sort of retreat. And that can be in person or virtual, but really communicating to those other leaders within the organization of what your strategic plan is, what strategic direction. Do they have a budget? Don't they have a budget? What needs to be brought to the board versus not brought to the board? But getting them on that same page with you and having them and giving kind of them that piece to filter it down into their committees so they've got that ownership of it, right? But again, I've seen a lot of success of you're not getting that rogue committee who doesn't understand what the direction is, or, hey, we need to focus on the mission. While this might be a great event to have, if we're struggling with staff time or sponsors, maybe we shouldn't focus on that event because it's not focused on the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. But again, some chapters don't even, or not chapters, committees don't think about that, right? That, oh yeah, we're supposed to be bringing it back to the mission and what's the direction that our chapter wants to go in. So if you're not doing that, I highly recommend doing that. If you need any more information or some examples of who to contact at other chapters, feel free to reach out to any of us on the chapter relations team and we can share some examples with you as well. But I highly recommend that communication.
If I can ask, I think that's a great idea. We've never done that. And especially with a new CED and some new committee chairs, it's confusion as to who does what. Do you have, Craig, something like a description of this workshop and, what we do?
Yeah, I can certainly send you, we've got a PowerPoint that was put together. I don't know if it came from National at some point or if it was something we created ourselves. I don't think there's any reason we can't share it, but it goes through, kind of some of the first of all, we go through and we define the committees, what is their scope, what isn't their scope. We talk about the interaction between, each of our committees not only has a chair, but we have a board liaison from the board that is the liaison between the chair and the board. So what those different roles are and how the information flows back and forth from the board to the committee. It's all in that PowerPoint. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I think after we do our strategic planning next month, that's usually where we name our committee chairs. I'll recommend that we do set one of those out in January.
Sure. Yeah, the other thing I think is part of it that we wanted to kind of reiterate is, we do get, and I'm sure everybody has the same problem, we get committees where there are people that are on the committee in name only and they never show up or they don't contribute, or we're actually lately having the problem with committees that schedule events and then expect the office to kind of be the staff for the event, and then they want to go and enjoy the event. They have a bags tournament and the committee wants to go and have fun at the event, but they don't want to actually run the event. So, reiterating the responsibilities of the committees when they do certain events and reiterating that if you're not participating, you'll be off the committee. We're also putting, I don't know if it's brand new, but it's going to be re-emphasized, is a committee kind of code of conduct, which is, which has to do with confidentiality, has to do with acting in your role for the benefit of CAI versus for the benefit of your specific company or, that you work for. So it's not that we've had a lot of issues with that, but I think there have been questions from people that have caused that to be readdressed. So we're gonna do that as well.
That's
Right.
awesome. I mean,
And
I've had issues where the CED didn't know who takes the minutes, the chair or the CED.
Yeah.
Yeah, stupid things like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what happens, what we've been having a lot is, the committee chairs, they kind of, oh, I've got a friend, I'm going to add them to the committee, and all of a sudden the committee has extra people you've never heard of, and the committee wants to do something, and they talk to a board member who says, yeah, go ahead, and they, and the board liaison doesn't have any idea what's going on. It's just kind of reiterating that flow of information so that everybody, in my experience, when people have a direction and they know kind of the box that they're in, they're happier rather than kind of having that ambiguity and we don't know what we can do and what we can't do and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
That's
Craig,
great.
you're famous. Everybody's asking for a copy of that PowerPoint. So.
Yeah. So I was going to say, Craig, if you want to, if you can just send it to myself,
yeah,
I will get it put into the toolkit that you guys all have access to. And then when we post the recording, we'll post that at the same time so that you guys can all access that and can find that easily. So
Sure.
that's great. I'm also going to look earlier this year. We did a webinar with a couple of our CEDs and chapters that have a really good volunteer program and succession planning for those volunteers and committees. So I'm going to post the link to that as well, but we also have some of those resources in the toolkit too of kind of how they allow volunteers to come in. I know we've got like a chapter, for example, they fill out a form and they do a phone call with them. Now, again, this is a bigger chapter who have more staff, so they have the ability to do some of these things. But they found they found that it's beneficial in the way that it's setting the standard at the very beginning of the purpose, and then they're actually placed into a committee that needs them versus just, oh, I want to be a part of the social committee because that sounds like fun. And you're like, well, that's great. We actually really need help in our education committee, and here's what they do, and having that conversation with them. But so I'll post the link to that video, and that link is also on the toolkit as well. In terms of getting ready and preparing for next year, we've got only a few more weeks of the year left, right? That's kind of scary to think about. And I do see a lot of president-elects on this call. So again, as you're getting ready to take over as that presidency, over these next couple of weeks, we really recommend you trying to find time with your current president and sit down with them, have a cup of coffee, have a Zoom call, but kind of walk through with them. Okay, what are some tips that you have for me? What would make me successful? What did it look like on a weekly basis? How involved were you? How often were you talking to the CED? How did you go to different committee meetings? And just getting a feel for what worked and maybe some challenges that they had that they can tell you like, hey, I wish I would have done X, Y, or Z, or I really struggled with this. So here, you might need to figure that out a little bit. So definitely recommend trying to get that done before you are fully in that role. And also making sure that, and as a president, and for any of our current presidents on the call, if you're able to be there as kind of that sounding board for them in the future. So let's say it's March, that president who's currently the president-elect is like, I'm really struggling with this. I wish I could talk to somebody about that. Yes, we'll have these president's calls still going on, but it might be easier to talk to that past president. And so just making sure that that relationship's there, that if you're struggling with something, or maybe it's something great that you're like, I just want to share this with you, because not all the presidents are going to be on the board. So you might not see them regularly like you're used to seeing. So again, while you're having that conversation over these next few weeks together, just making sure that you're comfortable with that report and having that peer who's already sat in that position, I know can be super helpful. So again, for the presidents, please think about being that person. And for the president-elects, please don't be afraid to lean on those people a little bit if you need to. They've been through it. They know what it's like. Andrea, go ahead.
I'm a chatterbox today. So speaking of committee expectations, do any of you have board expectations and or documents or procedures to help board members work their way up to president? So I know some people have we have the vice president, president-elect, and president, plus our secretary and treasurer. But our vice president has been a basically non-role for over a decade. Their title in our bylaws, or the description in the bylaws, is if the president-elect can't fulfill their duties, the vice president steps in, but there's no way to train somebody to kind of step up. But because our board terms are only 3 years, it'd be really early to have a brand new member be in that line already. And so I'm just curious how everybody else does the session planning for, or leadership training towards president for the chapter.
Okay, I'll say something. What we do is we have the president, we have the president-elect, we have a president-elect, and the vice president is the past president, the recent past president. So it's like we all, president and president-elect, for this whole year, we've been working all together the whole year. And the president-elect comes into the fold. He sees they see what's going on this year. Then when they become president-elect, they get more involved with it. And then it just works its way up from there. And we're finding it makes it a little easier than just jumping in with both feet and saying, help, I'm drowning, you know. But that's how, and it works pretty good. And the vice president is the first past president, and they're always around to answer the questions and stuff like that. So it just makes it a little easier that way. But like in Nevada, the three of us, the CED, the president, and me, we've been involved in everything since January. So it just makes it a lot easier.
Aaron, thinking you were an engineer with the PE after your name. I thought that was an engineer. I just want to say real quickly, we just updated our bylaws to include the immediate past president position that we never had before. More of a consulting, transitional type support role. Part of the executive committee, but not a voting member unless they still have time and term. For example, I'll be the first immediate past president. I still have a year left on my board term. So I'll be a normal board member for my year, but the second year of his presidency, I'm just part of the executive committee and just there to help. That type of thing. And then hopefully it works out for that type of transition. But no, it was more, there's no training to get up to be the president. Obviously, you have 11 board members for us, but we never had a procedure in place. It's just activity, years of being on the board. And, you know, we would feel those leaders, you know, just come up and volunteer, and then they want to be president, and they deserve the opportunity, but we never had an official procedure.
Yeah, and that's similar to us as well. I guess the big thing is, how much do you involve that president-elect or vice president, whoever's going to step into that next role? How much do you involve them? Because if they're just out there in name only, they're not really, you know, actually acclimating yet into that leadership role. So
we're still inviting our immediate past president, even though if they're not on a board, they're still going to be invited to every board meeting. And obviously, I'm still going to cheer the golf. That's my thing. I cheer the golf event. I'm still going to be involved in as much as that possible. But Andrew, who's on the call, knows he could always call me whenever, like I did with Vishnu. I mean, Vishnu's our past president for us down here. So I bother him. He's like my shrink.
We're also doing the same thing. Can you all hear me? It's so loud in here. I apologize if it's crazy. We're doing that as well. Steve, this is the first year we're going to do the immediate past president. I come off the board, but then I'll sit in just as immediate past president for training and just as resource.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Any other topics you guys want to throw out there? Doing a pulse check.
I just want to apologize. I need to jump off. I have another call. Another hurricane call. As you can imagine, we've been pretty busy down here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Steve.
Thank you guys, everybody. Take care.
Okay, so the next piece, this is especially for our president-elects on the line. It's just the reminder that our recertification has officially opened. And so if you're not sure what recertification is, I apologize to those who understand, but I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page. So every year, the chapter has minimum requirements that you need to make sure that you're doing, or rules that you're following, such as having D&O insurance, making sure that you filed your taxes, that you're up to the correct standards in terms of logos, that you have a website and it's functioning, things like this. And so we have a online portal that your chapter executive directors have been emailed links to start uploading the documentation that is required. They should give you access, or at least walk through what has been submitted, because you will be signing off on the recertification. So it's the 2022 president and president-elect sign off on the recertification. This is due the end of January of 2023. But so I want you all just to be prepared. That's what this is. This is a normal thing. Some CEDs who are tech savvy, or if you yourself are tech savvy, they might give you direct access into the portal to look through, make sure everything's there, that you're comfortable with that. If at any time you have any questions, go to your CED first. If, especially for some of the newer CEDs, they might not know the answer, or they might have a question too. Again, feel free to touch base with anybody on our staff here in the chapter relations team. We can walk through it. We can get on a phone call with you if something doesn't make sense. I think most of it's pretty straightforward, but again, if you have any questions about it, please let us know. But I just wanted you guys to be prepared. So when the end of January comes and they go, hey, I need you to sign off on this form, or take a look at, what I uploaded really quick, you're not surprised by having to go through that process. Does anyone have questions about the recertification or that process in general? Seeing lots of head shaking no's. That's good. That's good. For the presidents, do you know what I'm talking about? I just want to make sure that that's not a surprise to you. I see a couple head nods, so that's good. So thank you. The other reminder too is I know a lot of chapters are going through elections right now. As that reminder, we will start supplying that link for who your 2023 president-elect is going to be. So that will start coming out most likely in the weekly email after Thanksgiving. So as those election results start coming through, feel free, if you want to send them to, again, a member of our team, or against once that link is out there, we can go ahead and we can get that updated in the spreadsheet that we have, so that we can start communicating with the 2023 president-elects. Can you believe it's that time already? Which elections, how are elections going for those who have gone through them recently? Good?
Yeah,
Indifferent?
we just
Go ahead.
finished ours. We just
Good.
finished ours. And it's interesting because we had 3 new board members. And so what was interesting is even though they may know some of the other board members, they didn't have the historical knowledge of how any of the candidates had performed or did what they said they were going to do. And so I think one of the things that we may do in the future, if we do have more than one candidate for a role, is maybe just have people write down a quick little paragraph so they don't have to think about it off the top of their head, of just what they've been involved with and how long they've been involved, versus just looking at somebody on Zoom and typing in a name on a chat. So.
Great. All right. That's my list for today. You guys did great. And again, last chance. Anything else you guys want to throw out to the group at all?
Kevin, I just have one question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
When is remind me, the audit need to be done? Is it for this past year, 2022?
Yes. So the requirement goes into effect. It's the fiscal year 22. If you're over $100,000, you need to have an audit. If you are under $100,000, you need to have a review done. So that actual activity will take place in 2023, and you'll submit that with the 2023 recertification, which is due in January of 2024. Now, if you are a chapter that is already doing an audit, and you are on a cycle already, just please let us know, and you can submit a past audit already that is within the terms. What we're looking for is that it's done every 3 years. So again, after 2022, another 3 years will pass, and then another audit will most likely be required. So again, if your chapter is already doing an audit, and let's say this is your audit year, you did one for 2021 fiscal year and you have it already, you are able to submit that. We don't want to screw up any of the chapters who are already on an audit schedule. Kelly, I see you came off mute. Did you have a question? Yeah.
No, I actually just wanted to make a statement and say thank you for the article in Common Ground for Michael Shinners, and how much we really appreciate. It was very nicely done, and it of course has hit, Georgia chapter very hard, but we did want to thank you for that and honoring him in that way. We very much
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. And I'll make sure we tell our marketing and communication team that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that feedback, and I'll let Amy Repke know about that. So, and our editors, thank you.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciated from all of our membership.
Thank you. And Grace did put in the chat just kind of a recap of everything that I just went over. Again, I know that's a lot of years thrown out there, 2022, 23, and 24. So again, if it's confusing and you want to talk through it, or even your board wants to talk through it, please let us know. I know Crystal a few weeks ago had sent out some information if you haven't done an audit before, some tips and tricks on how to get ready for that. And then also a couple of recommendations for companies that are doing like a virtual audit. So again, I believe you were on that email too. If not, I know for sure your CEDs were. So follow up with that, because they have that resource for you. Any other questions?
It's kind of a follow-up audit.
Yeah.
Are there other chapters that you know of that have had audits that we could, see what their notes to the financial statements look like?
I know the Illinois chapter has done audits in the past. They're one of the chapters that have. I can reach out to them and see if they have anything, but if you want to reach out to them directly as well, I will grab Cheryl's email address if you give me 1 second. Cheryl is their executive director, and Grace just dropped the document, the getting ready for the audit that was emailed out. All right, any other questions? Well, thank you guys all for joining us today. I hope you guys have a great day.